Welcome to Start Here, Go Everywhere. I am Linda Moyo, an alumna of Jobs for America's Graduates. On this podcast, we bring you incredible guests from all walks of life, offering the skills to educate, inspire, and challenge you to succeed in both school, on the job skills, and in personal life, leading to productive and rewarding careers. In celebration of Women's History Month, we asked some of the JAG team for their thoughts on this month. These women each have their own unique perspectives and wisdom to share. You do not want to miss a second of this. What does Women's History Month mean to you? What is the significance of Women's History Month?
Yeah, I believe that women have been so instrumental in moving our country forward throughout history, but their contributions are sometimes overlooked. And for me, Women's History Month is the opportunity to showcase these contributions and all of these untold stories so that we can celebrate the real sheroes who are out there.
Yeah, I think Women's History Month for me, it's just like a time to honor women who like are and were slash are like okay with being uncomfortable in this time. They put themselves out there to honoring those women that put themselves out there to make their communities better. And then it's also just like if you think about it, like women as a whole, there's a lot of challenges and struggles that we go through in and of ourselves, but there's like such a resilience as being a woman. You're required to be not only hard and tough but soft and compassionate. So I think Women's History Month is just one of those months that it's just important, and you just honor the people who one came before us but are also actively, like myself, trying to make a change in the community around us.
What Women's History Month means to me is the opportunity to celebrate women. We serve a variety of roles. We serve in relationships as well as the workforce. And oftentimes, we are not acknowledged for some of those roles. And so being able to be acknowledged and just not only just celebrate womanhood and sisterhood as a whole, but the impact that a woman has made in all types of genres, industries, organizations, as well as the overall community.
I think the significance of Women's History Month is that in a world and time where women were believed to be less than or inferior, that finally, somewhere, women started realizing their worth and dared to be held back any longer. It's significant because now women are looked at as being strong, independent, intellectual, beautiful. Nothing can stop us now.
Women are what hold this world together. Women are the leaders of their households. They are leaders of companies. They are in boardrooms. They are across the country in so many roles that really keep our families afloat. They keep our economy afloat. And without them, I'd hate to think of a world without women, without mothers, without daughters, sisters, friends. They bring so much love into the world, yet the ability to tackle challenging problems and issues and do so with grace and tact and leadership is it's profound. And I think we can learn a lot by studying the work of women across the world. So the significance of Women's History Month in particular for me is I come from a long line of women that have been activists, if you will, involved politically and their own form of feminists, I would say. Just recognizing the importance of voting, the importance of being involved in their political campaigns, and encouraging community members to represent themselves. And so I think it's important that we continue that message and to make sure the next generation of young women and men leaders are activating their voices, their ability to change their communities for the better. So I think that Women's History Month and the celebration and focus on women in our nation's history and in the history of the world is critical.
I think the significance of Women's History Month is the significance of all women of all time, and recognizing that women have played an integral part of humanity and our society from day one. I mean, I think that's obvious, right? The significance of it is taking the time to recognize we have to lift up, celebrate, and get to know influential women over history, but then also everyday women, people who are living their lives, raising their children, raising their communities, supporting their communities. So the fact that we have a month dedicated to recognizing women, I think represents the significance that women have in helping to create our cultures and societies.
Who is the most influential woman in your life and why?
So, the most influential woman in my life is hands down my mentor and friend, Courtney Lynch, from the firm Leadstar. Courtney has encouraged and enabled my personal and professional success over the past decade. She's been there for the good and she's been there for the not so good. And she's always this steady guiding voice. And honestly, I admire her more than almost anybody. She tells me those really hard truths and supports me every step of the way. And really, there just aren't enough good things that I could say about her and what she's done for me.
I'm gonna be I know, I was gonna say I'm gonna be actually really cliche right here and say it's my mom, actually, truthfully. My mom is shout out to Nikki Buell. My mom is probably one of the toughest, hardest working people I've ever met in my life, but she's also has been there for us, like me and my sisters, our whole lives. And she like was that parent who was just like, you can do anything. And I promise you, I did not make things easy on this woman growing up, but like she was just always there, and I know she'd always be on my side. In the pandemic, she was a teacher actually, and she lost her school closed down, and she changed careers, and she's also running the food pantry in the small little town that she lives in and serves her community. She's the vice president of the Lioness Club. If she's not at work, she's running meeting to meeting, and I talk to her probably every single day, and every day she's just there. She makes the time. So I think the most influential woman is my mom because she just reminds me that while I'm sitting around binge watching Netflix, she's running meeting to meeting and working hard. And, she always has at her age now. She just doesn't stop. And I think that's super awesome. My second answer to that, too, because this is going to be the theme of this is going to be take two for Tori here. But my second answer probably be like the late Betty White. I think just who she was as a person and how she curbed her acting career to serve World War II veterans. And during World War II, she actually like stopped acting to volunteer instead. But I think someone who is so influential and so beloved, and I remember there was this interview that I saw of her where she said that she didn't want to be known for her acting, but she wanted to be known for her animal activism and the service she has given towards like animals. And I thought that was just super cool. And then also as an LGBTQ plus individual, what she's done for the space there is just, she's wonderful. And I inspire every day to be able to be just like her. So,
Of course, I come from a background of very strong women. I was blessed to have, my mother, who's my biological mother, and my stepmother. My parents met very young and went to college, and then just realized it just wasn't working out. So I was about 3 when they split, and then my dad was able to remarry when I was 10, and my mom was able to remarry when I was 8. And so I've always had 2 women coming from 2 different vantage points, viewpoints, spectrums, but both strong Black women. And so being able to, envision, what influence looks like, they're very close. Everybody's close. They're best friends, believe it or not. Holidays have been spent together over the years and events, but being able to have 2 women coming from 2 different backgrounds, one is an only child, one is not. One is older, one is younger. And so being able to have both of those spectrums, I think, is what made me the balance that I am now, because I always have two different views that I have. So they're both influential. I couldn't just name one without the other.
The most influential women actually in my life are actually my daughters. And I say this because everything I choose to say or do, how I decide to react to a situation, how I carry myself, how I treat others, literally everything is influenced by my reminder that I have two sweet little girls that are constantly watching my every move. Typically, we think of influential people as people we want to be like or people that we admire. Well, I want to be the woman in my little girl's life that they admire and respect and look up to. So I would say the most influential women in my life are my daughters.
There's so many influential people that I've been in touch with and influential women that I've had the privilege to know. But really, when I think about who has impacted my personal life and my journey, has been my mom. Even though she did not have a long working history, she has held our family together, and not only our family, but so many community members' families. She was a daycare provider, and she raised half the children in the town that I grew up in. We had always had family members living with us, and so her courageous heart and leading by example always was a role model to me and modeled to me how to treat other people, how to see the world, how to help people in need, and that I think are qualities that are often overlooked, but so valuable in developing the character of humans.
I haven't taken the time, Linda, to really take a step back and marinate on influential women in this month. And I think that is an important reminder. There's a reason we have this month, and it's to take that time to, whether it's connecting with the influential women in your life, your personal life, and your mom, your family members, your colleagues, your children, to have a conversation about the importance of women in leadership and women in society, or, reading a book about a woman that maybe paved a way in your business, in your personal motivations, whatever it may be, but taking that time to identify a woman and learn more about her, whether she's alive right now or paved that way thousands of years ago. And that is something I want to get better at. I recognize the incredibleness of women all the time, but I need to do more to actually celebrate this month.
What makes you proud to be a woman?
So, what doesn't make me proud to be a woman? When I was young, my mom used to dress me in these girl power t shirts, and she taught me to be strong and independent and just really proud of who I was, especially as a young woman. Um, I'm from a really long line of fierce Italian women. So the matriarchy runs very deep in my family. And then when I got to college, I majored in women's studies. Uh, in part, I didn't have great career guidance, but also I was just really drawn to women's issues. And I felt so strongly that women can change the world. And I still believe that probably more than almost anything. So fast forward now, I'm a mom and a small business owner, and I'm just constantly moved by the women who are around me. They're juggling kiddos and careers, and they're making it look so easy, and it isn't. And we all know it isn't. And I could just go on and on about women, but wow, am I really proud to be one.
It's that female bond, women supporting women. It's just when you support other women and women are supporting other women, it's just that strong bond of cheerleaders that are just, I truly believe when a group of women get together, there's really nothing that we can't do. And that just makes me so proud of being a woman in this day and age.
Oh, wow. I think for me, is just being able to knock down barriers. As a woman, I come, from a long history of just tradition. And so oftentimes women are not at the forefront of that, just history wise. But then I also come from a large family where I have a lot of women that have led and have been the backbone. And so what makes me so proud to be a woman is I was able to watch growing up women in various roles, from the homemaker to the first to do this, to the person who keeps the family together, to the person who's the athlete, to the person that is, moving up the organizational ladder in their workplace. And so I'm very proud of that. And I was always taught to be proud of who I am and be able to contribute. Plus, women always have a little magic touch. I always say women have that magic sauce. So there you go. I'm proud. I'm proud to have the magic sauce.
I'm proud to be a woman because that's who God made me. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
I'm proud to be a woman because I think it's important to recognize that we need to own our greatness. We bring so much joy, care, and compassion into the world. And usually the ability to critically think of, the problems and the solutions to those problems in a way that bring people together rather than bring them apart.
It's kind of cliche, but I'd say in many ways, my mother. The older you get, the more you can recognize the strength of your mother as well as the humanity. Because, when you're a kid, your mom is your hero. Your mom, both your parents, they can't do any wrong. At least in my mind as a child, they're the authority holders. They're old, so they know what's best. They have all the answers. And as your parents age, for me, as my mother gets older and we transition from mother-daughter relationship to friendship and just getting to know each other better as humans, I've told her a few times, I do not understand how you had 3 children, were working full time, and then also working, my dad's a farmer, where I grew up in a family farm, and also how you worked on the weekends and raised all 3 of us at the same time. And you are a superhero. And it's something I still don't understand how she was able to do it for so long.
If you could have a conversation with yourself at 18 years old, what would you say to them?
So I would probably advise my 18-year-old self to just dial it back a little bit. Sometimes my fiery Italian side could come out a bit too much in my early years, and probably could have spared a few people. I'd also encourage my 18-year-old self to be a bit more content. I've always been this type A overachiever. I certainly still am. But I think my 18-year-old self bore the brunt of a lot of that overachievement, probably unnecessarily so.
I'd say clearly you're a weird kid, and with a different outlook and vision about life. But I would say stop trying to be perfect. Try to enjoy the important things, live your life, and stop worrying about what other people think. And that it's not necessarily to hide yourself, and it's going to be okay. It's okay to be gay. It's perfectly okay to be different. And probably you also need to floss more, and your future self will thank you for that.
Girl. Well, what I would say is it's okay that you don't know what you don't know. I think, coming from an era where 18 is considered grown, and you should have life figured out. You should have a path figured out. You should understand, where you're going, what you're doing. I would tell my 18-year-old self, it's okay if you don't have any of those answers, and to use college or to use your situation at the time to be able to experience and figure out who you are and what you like and what you don't like, rather than just going with what society says that you are. So that is one thing that I would change.
If I could have a conversation with 18-year-old me, I would say, and it's actually a quote that I heard recently, it says, "Be careful what you tolerate. You're teaching people how to treat you. No one should ever allow others to treat you less than, and know your worth."
I would say to the 18-year-old Carrie that anything worth having is worth hard work. There's nothing in life that comes easily that's worth having. I would also tell that 18-year-old self that and I realized this at age 30, that at the age of 30, I had already lived a long life in my, limited experience, right? 30 years old, I'd lived through some things, right? But I realized at that moment that I also had another lifetime and beyond to work. And so if whatever it was that I was going to do for a job, I had better enjoy it. I had better put my all into it and really believe in what it was, the mission and the vision of that organization or of that company that I was working for.
I think that women are great at everything. And when I say everything, I mean roles, different roles in life and different roles in the job. I'm gonna stick with work for a second. Historically, as women get into the workforce, they tend to have the assistant jobs, the supportive jobs, behind the scene jobs, right? But we also know, and history has shown us, that behind any great leader, and the cliche behind any great man is a great woman. Well, historically, men have been leaders in business, in industry, but we know that there are a lot of strong women that were making up those companies, those nonprofits, the public sector positions. And I think based on that history, women have learned to be great at everything. They're great at being the support staff and championing teams, but they've also had years of experience in sitting on the sidelines often and observing and watching what is going well and what isn't. And I think collectively that experience of being able to keep the train going and supporting the back end of it, plus that oftentimes overlooked front row view of the external high level operations and leaderships of organizations, have provided women a unique lens to navigate both sides of the coin. And by the way, my experience and those who have come before me uniquely positioned me for this role, for this head of the table.
What advice would you give young women, especially in JAG, who are about to enter into various professions?
Yeah, I would say to our JAG students, find yourself a female mentor as quickly as possible. I believe it's incumbent on women to help other women in any way they possibly can, supporting and encouraging the success of younger generation. And you just really can't go wrong learning from the women who have come before you. And I certainly have been the benefit of that, as I mentioned earlier. So I would just say, get a mentor in your corner. It really can change everything.
I think something that I know that I would have appreciated hearing when I was just a young individual and just getting started is look people in the eyes when you talk to them. Give them your full attention. Don't apologize when you don't know something. Just look for the answer. Don't apologize for making mistakes. Own them, but then also find that solution. And that's just so important to know that, mistakes happen. You're not going to know everything, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn that answer or you can't find the solution to the problem. I think it's just really important, and everyone will appreciate it more if you look them in the eyes when you talk to them. Even in Zoom, it's kind of weird where you look in Zoom or on virtual calls, but you figure it out and you give that full attention.
It's great that you asked that question, because I actually started my career in the classroom as a JAG specialist many years ago. And one of the things I used to do with my young women is just be able to try to give them advice on moving forward, advice on consistency, sticking with the plan. And if plans change, having a plan B, plan C, plan D. But for our young people, it's different. Professions look different in 2022 than it did several years ago. And so now you're in a space where you can create who you are. You can brand and market yourself. So my advice is to look at what your passions are. See how you can turn your passions to profit. Does that mean education? Does that mean entrepreneurship? Does that mean just getting additional skills? Does it mean, getting a mentor to help you get into the area? But whatever you do, use your resources, because your resources are more vast than ours were. I mean, you have not necessarily Google, but you do have places where you can connect with professionals and other women to help you see what the possibilities are. So my advice to them is just use your resources, use your JAG programs, use your platform and your career association, and just really kind of look at what it is that you like, and then what are you wanting to do, and go for it without any limitations. And so that was some of the advice that I would give, especially when you go into a variety of professions. Look for someone who's already doing it. Look for somebody who's been there, done that, to be able to give you the full picture, not just the bells and whistles you see online and on paper, but you utilize your groups. And if you don't have groups, support groups. If you feel like outside of JAG, you have very limited, but ask your specialists about people that they may know in that industry, in that area, and be able to have them introduce you to those folks, because knowledge is key. And the best knowledge is experience. So I would give you advice on that. So
I love quotes, so I'm going to use another one. I heard one a while back that's really stuck with me. It says, if you look at the people in your circle and you don't get inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. I would tell young women that they need to start now being very selective in who you let in your circle. You don't have to have a lot of friends to be happy. Find those couple of friends that have your best interests at heart and will always be honest with you. Hold them close. The rest of them, the ones that tear you down, they don't deserve your time or your attention. So let's move on.
I would tell young women ready to enter the world of work or whatever it is, their futures. It's important to find mentors. Being able to ask guidance, learn from the experience of others that have gone before you is powerful, and it allows you to maybe prevent some missteps that would maybe slow your progress down. I would also focus on what makes you stand out in the crowd. So whatever it is that makes you makes you unique, enhance that, because that's what people draw you to you. So often we've spent so much time trying to fit in to be just like everyone else. And what employers look for is what makes you unique. What is that skill set that you have that maybe nobody else has? And that will differentiate you from the crowd. Because in an interview, that's what we're looking for, is the person that's going to do the job a step better, think a little bit differently than the rest.
Probably say be patient. Don't be so hard on yourself. And you have more strength than you realize. I say that because I tend to be always focused on the future, which is a positive and a negative. So be patient, enjoy the moment. You don't always need to be focused on where you're going and what's it gonna be like a year, 2, 5, 10 years from now. Make sure you enjoy the moment. Take it easy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. When you're always focused on where you want to go, you can be hard on yourself in those days or those times where it feels like you're not moving as fast as you would like. And you have more power than you think. I think a lot of times, especially for women, you are not the first to speak up. You're not the first to assume your idea is good. Although I would say the next generation of women leaders are doing a much better job at that and recognizing the power that they have. But if I could go back to 18-year-old Janelle, I would say, don't be scared to speak up. Your opinion matters, your ideas matter, and you don't have all the answers, but you can't learn the answers if you don't speak up and ask questions. Well, I smile because that's so exciting. I would say, tap into that, know your strength, but I would also say there's strength in numbers. Lean on each other. work together, advocate for each other, lift each other up, take each other out for coffee, for drinks, for a meal, whatever it is that you want to do, but just build your support network. But I would say, please build your network. Build your network of friends, of whether professional, personally, just build that network of strong women and support each other throughout your personal and your professional lives. And, friendships change over time, obviously, but you have that commitment to support each other. I think women are unstoppable if you have that support network, and we move forward together. And that's another thing I would tell 18-year-old Janelle is when a woman in a leadership position takes an interest in you, lean into that. Again, I'm a little bit independent and hard on myself, or very much so when I was younger, focused on where I need to go and not being patient. That led to independence that I wish sometimes I would have broken down a little bit more. So then when women would lean into me and notice me and what I perceive now as willing to extend that olive branch to help me, I wish I would have taken advantage of that more. So that's my message to young women. If you get someone who takes an interest and wants to support, lean into that. You can go further, faster together.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest things, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at JAG Students. Thanks again, and see you next time.